So 2007, first, let's say this is my first movie, a local movie, a Spanish movie. This is where I've learned to really work fast and trust my ideas and go for my ideas, working very fast. And actually, this was the first time that I put myself working straight ahead. This shot in particular was done straight ahead. No blocking in step-in mode. All this is done straight ahead. You know, just showing to the supervisors, getting notes, and again applying a straight ahead way of working and getting things done very, very fast. And then I did Animation Mentor. Why not? Because everybody, I think I was getting this in the early ages of Animation Mentor. Everybody was doing Animation Mentors, and I said, why not? I should get some official kind of animation training. And I tried it for one term, and I didn't like it. I just simply didn't like the way, the philosophy of teaching that they had. Probably because after my experience with Daniel Pace here, where he was more kind of by the hand, almost frame to frame, almost step by step. Maybe, yeah, I got a little spoiled after that experience. So that's all my official training on animation. The rest of it was basically mentorship and self-taught. After that, in 2008, I got my first job at, let's say, probably the first big movie. This is Planet 51, done at Inland Animation Studios. I got in as a crowd animator, and little by little, I made my work. I made my work to go up. You know, in the meantime, I was doing crowds. I did some freelance like this one, very cartoony, also, again, super fast paced. And I quite enjoyed because it was cartoony, it was fast. I had to go with my first ideas. It was, again, a little bit in the line of being spontaneous and trusting my own ideas and going for it and trying to make it work the best as possible. Very snappy timing, which is something that I was starting to enjoy back then. And this is the shot that basically I had to do in order to show to the supervisors and the leads that I was able to do real shots. Everything that I was doing before was in this line of, you know, just crowds. I remember I did a lot of extra hours to do this shot. I was very, very into animation back then. I could say that I was a little bit workaholic, you know, working from 9 to 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. Dinners were delivered. Some co-workers were playing guitar in the background. It was beautiful. It was very easy to stay and make a lot of hours. Not that I defend that now, but I can understand the passion and the rush of, you know, and the ambition of growing and becoming a great animator. So this is what I did in order to become a great animator. And again, I was very lucky because everybody involved in this movie, the leads overall, were top-notch animators. All the animators, or most of everybody after this movie, end up working in big studios like DreamWorks, Pixar, Disney. Something that I really learned in this show was the importance of facial animation. I have to really thank this to Cucho, who was one of the leads back then in Planet 51. He had no experience at all, I remember. But he was amazing, a very good animator. And he was the one who, let's say, infused me the importance of putting a lot of importance to the facial animation. How everything that you do in your shot basically ends up in the face, and how all the focus on the main attention, or the main focus of attention of your shot, is the face. Another two leads besides Peixe, Cucho, and were Ramiro and Javi Moya. They helped me a lot to polish spend a lot of hours polishing, trying to make sure that trajectories and everything that is happening in all the parts of the body are related, and how I may start some movements in my arms, but how that goes down to my shoulder and how that affects my chest and how that affects my COG, and how all that has to happen in a very beautiful trajectories with nice spacing and all that. That was the other thing that probably I've learned in 2008. They spending a lot of hours cleaning out trajectories and making it all the trajectories to look good and beautiful. And then 2009, I jumped into working on Uli Meyer Studios. I ended up my work at Ilion, which was a movie, and back then, with not too much experience, I didn't want to end up working in a VFX studio in London. Just so you get an idea, Uli Meyer, he was the animation director in Space Jam, done in 2D. And he has probably the only classic studio remaining at London, or at least it was the only one back then in 2009. And they were quite successfully converted into the 3D work, right? So even though he was still doing his 2D work in the studio that he owns, there was still a lot of 3D guys, or there was like a pretty solid 3D team doing high quality advertising. So I got a job in these Domestos advertise for no more than 4 or 5 months. And again, luckily for me, in that studio there was a supervisor that came from DreamWorks. He was supervising all this, and he was the guy who helped me to push the boundaries overall doing this shot. I remember he was every day pushing me, how should I do that squash and stretch, how that breaking down of the joints and difference of the different part of the body, how I should do it even harder, to push it more. The only thing I remember from him was saying, push it more. Don't be afraid, just break it if it's necessary. Push it. And so I started to play more and enjoy more that kind of process of being more flexible, getting more in touch with the squashy kind of animation, and it was great. Then I was very lucky again to jump into this movie, because when I was looking for a job when I was finishing my job at Uli Meyer, I was looking for working still in character animation. I wanted to still do movies, do film. And for some reason I got attracted to what McGuff they were doing back then. Nobody knew about them. I remember that at that time they had a teaser, a very simple teaser of what it would be in the future, the Despicable Me. I think that there was no Minions, there was not even Gru in that teaser, or I don't remember, but you couldn't even tell what was the movie about. But the quality of that animation, of that teaser, with backgrounders, very secondary characters, again, not even Minions, was very good. And I put my eye on that, and I guess I just trusted my intuition, and I applied for a job. And you know what? I almost don't get it. I remember talking to somebody from the production team, actually. They were looking for seniors, and 2009, I just got started my work, as animator, only 3 years as experience. True, I got very lucky, and I think that at this time I started to have a decent reel, more or less, to work on movies, but I definitely wasn't a senior. I wasn't at all. So after a couple of changing emails and all that, the guy, Jean-Luc, producer back then, he told me, well, I'm sorry, but we're just looking for seniors. I don't have any kind for intermediate, or not even junior, because I could be a junior back then with only 3 years of experience. And I remember that I wrote him after that huge email, just telling him how much I really love animation, telling him that I trusted in myself enough to do senior work. And then that worked out good enough because I got a job. After doing that email, he wrote me a very simple line saying, okay, I really love your enthusiasm. You got a job. We wait for you in 2 weeks. And that was big. That was amazing because I wasn't really expecting that. And I remember that when my first week, going into watching Despicable Me, the first thing that usually you do when you jump into a movie is to watch the storyboards, right? And to watch what was the movie about. And I remember myself that I couldn't believe it. The storyboards already were so good. The story was so fun. The gags were so amazing. The voice was almost final. Again, I was really lucky and I couldn't believe my luck. And here in this, the things that I mostly learned in doing this work was just simply trying to be more professional, trying to be part more of a more solid way of working. And I've learned so much just by copying of what I've seen from other animators. The team at Paris that they had at MacGuff, it was amazing. All the animators, all the leads were amazing. So I spent a lot of time just basically copying. I remember being inspired by the work of other shots in the facial work of the Minions. So I copied that. But something that happened, and is that I got this shot. I got these 3 shots. The knocked over and It's So Fluffy, which definitely this was a shot that definitely will help my career to explode. Like, everybody will know me as an animator after doing that shot. And I was very lucky to be assigned. I jumped from being a very intermediate animator into doing a shot that could be a little bit more senior, but with a lot of potential, right? Without asking, it was just given to me. And something happened is that for some reason in this show, at the very beginning of working in the show, I didn't have a good relationship with my lead. Usually what happened is that you have to follow what your lead says, right? That you have to do this, you have to do that. So my very first shots in this show was a lot about cutting ideas that I used to have and doing whatever my lead wanted to do. And honestly, that pissed me off. Sorry, that pissed me off a lot. And not only that, what happened is that I started to get notes from the director that was actually pulling me back to do ideas, similar ideas that what I originally had. So I started to think about bridging my lead, and I started to consider to directly showing my shots straight to the supervisor, who was more in the line of the ideas that I had. So this was the first time that I started to fight for my own ideas, that I started to be more aware of my own creative impulse and not to do what 100% other wants me to do. At the end, I learned how to match both of them, but this was quite rebellious. I basically ignored my lead, who was right beside me. I did it in a decent way, I believe. I think that what I did was I got in a meeting with the supervisor. I told him the situation. Listen, I'm very unhappy because my lead is just destroying all my ideas, and everything that I'm doing that is coming from the lead, the director doesn't like. So I was wondering if I could just show you my ideas straight to you and see if you like it. And see if my ideas, we can just go and show them to the director. And so the supervisor, who was a very good supervisor back then, Lionel Galat, he was coming from DreamWorks. He helped me a lot to make. He helped me a lot to let's say he gave me the power to show my ideas straight to the directors, and he helped me a lot to, let's say, polish my issues as junior. 2009. I had still a lot of problems with physics, with body mechanics, with polishing. And I remember that he was mentioning to me that I was having senior ideas and senior workflow, but the way my shots looked in terms of polishing and in terms of being flown or not flow, it was still a little junior, right? So he helped me a lot to get, let's say, to refine my workflow for polish and to spend more hours polishing. As you can tell, I don't like polish. I don't like it now. I didn't like it back then. But anyways, he helped me. And that's how I ended up doing mainly all my ideas, and that helped me a lot in my career, just get empowered. And that's how I started to understand how important it is to find your way to get your ideas out, because that is just good. That's just highly satisfying. The moment you jump into that, let's say, workflow where you are able to do your ideas, that feeds yourself back, right? And not only that, at some point in the future career, that makes me even more collaborative, because, let's say, I become highly satisfied I know at the end that I can do my own ideas if I really want to. So let's say that by becoming empowered or personally empowered with my own creativity, I become more compassionate, and I open myself more to other ideas, because I already gave myself the chance, and others gave myself the chance to be myself and to do my own ideas, right? That's why I always say that it's very important in order in your career as animator or in any kind of corporate or industrial kind of creative world to first surrender to your own creative impulse, to first do whatever you want to do first, in order to find a balance when you work with somebody else. If you jump into this kind of career, for example, and the only thing that you do is to satisfy others, and you don't satisfy your own creativity, you're gonna be very miserable, and burnout is gonna happen very fast. Despicable Me was done, and I go back to Madrid, to Ilion Animation Studios, the same studios where we did this, Planet 51. A few years later, they were in the development of their next feature film. They were already working in pre-production, very, very early pre-production, creating rigs, creating a style. I went back to Spain, to Madrid, to be part of a very, very small team of 3-4 animators in order to create all the work behind, or pre-production behind, what would be a future feature. Was really looking forward to do that, because pre-production, you always have a lot of time to do good animation, to explore character development, to develop animation style, and many of the things that I've learned in the past, I started to do in all these early tests. This was my very first opportunity to start working side by side with a rigging department. Where we're exploring new ways of maybe creating a rig that allow us to create very solid rigs with huge flexibility. And I think we did a pretty good job. And we took a lot of time to do all these tests. I believe that this dance, me and Carlos, another good friend and very good animator, I think we took 3 months to do this test. So we spent a lot of time giving us feedback, trying to improve. The main goal of this, true, we were developing a pre-production style, we were developing character rigs and all that. But what we were also doing for us as animators back then in this time is that we were having fun. We were we were just a tiny small group of friends and animators that spent a lot of time enjoying the craft and the art itself of animating, right? So since we had no time, since we have no, let's say, obligation to really deliver nothing, because we spent a lot of time just basically waiting for the movie to be sold, it was fun, and it was simply the pure enjoyment doing all these tests, talking between us, having ideas, exchanging ideas in between not just the team, but the rest of the team, the lighting team, the rigging team, the directors, everybody it was a very beautiful time. It was like planting seeds. And this was, let's say, the moment where I started to really to tap into the importance of be happy and the joy and the importance of how important it is to do something that is beautiful, that you think, that you feel that is beautiful, in order to feel satisfied and in order to do a good job. Because we had the time to do it, we had the time to feel it, we had the time to enjoy it. And I cherish this time of my career very fondly, because it was pure enjoyment, pure beauty making, it was all about appeal and to feel good about it.